On the 29th of November 2025, China's military and Coast Guard initiated patrols around Scarborough Shoal, a disputed feature located in the South China Sea, to assert its sovereignty and safeguard its maritime interests. This move, reported by China's official state news agency Xinhua, is the latest in a series of actions by Beijing to reinforce its territorial claims over the area, which has long been a flashpoint in the region. The patrols are seen as part of a broader Chinese strategy to strengthen its presence in the South China Sea, a region of immense strategic and economic significance. Scarborough Shoal, located just over 230 kilometres from the Philippines' western coast, has been a source of heightened tensions between China and the Philippines. The shoal is rich in natural resources, including potential oil and gas reserves, and is an important fishing ground. For years, both China and the Philippines have claimed sovereignty over the area. China's extensive territorial claims in the South China Sea, known as the Nine-Dash Line, cover not only Scarborough Shoal but also several other islands, reefs and waters claimed by other nations. This expansive claim is based on historical maps dating back to the 1942, yet it has been widely contested by other countries in the region, particularly the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia and Brunei. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled in favour of the Philippines, declaring that China's claims had no legal basis under international law. Despite this ruling, Beijing has continued its aggressive posture in the South China Sea, claiming the right to protect its maritime interests in the disputed areas. The latest patrols around Scarborough Shoal are part of China's ongoing efforts to demonstrate its control over the region, ignoring the International Court's decision and dismissing the calls of the international community for peaceful resolution and adherence to international norms. The Philippine government has expressed concern over China's increasing military activities in the region. The Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs has issued numerous protests over the years, urging China to cease its militarization of the South China Sea and respect the Philippines' territorial claims. The recent patrols are no exception. Although the Philippine embassy in Beijing has not yet issued a formal response to China's latest move, the country's leadership under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has consistently sought to balance its strategic relationships. While the Philippines has strengthened its military ties with the United States, it has also sought diplomatic engagement with China in an attempt to maintain regional stability. Despite the Philippines' diplomatic efforts, the Chinese government has maintained its stance that the South China Sea is part of China's sovereign territory. Beijing regularly emphasizes its right to safeguard what it considers its territorial integrity, particularly in the face of foreign involvement in the region. This includes not only the United States, but also other international powers that have expressed concern over China's expanding military presence, such as Japan and Australia. China's approach to the South China Sea dispute has evolved over the years, with an increasing focus on militarizing the area. In recent years, Beijing has constructed military infrastructure on artificial islands in the Spratly Islands, transforming them into heavily fortified outposts. These military installations, complete with airstrips, radar systems and missile defense systems, have sparked outrage among China's neighbors and beyond. The US, which has a mutual defense treaty with the Philippines, has repeatedly conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea to challenge China's claims and assert the right of ships and aircraft to move freely through the international waters. The patrols around Scarborough Shoal are significant not only because of the symbolism they carry, but also due to their practical implications for regional security. While the shoal itself is relatively small, its location in the heart of the South China Sea makes it a critical asset in the broader geopolitical competition between China and the United States. The region is one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, with trillions of dollars in trade passing through its waters each year. Control over the sea is not only a matter of national pride, but also of significant economic and strategic importance. The Chinese military's increasing presence in these waters is seen by many as a direct challenge to international laws governing the sea and an effort to expand China's influence over the region. The Philippines has sought to draw international attention to the growing threat posed by China's actions. In recent years, the Philippine government has pushed for a stronger regional response to China's encroachments. This has included working more closely with its allies, particularly the United States, to bolster its defense capabilities and deter further Chinese aggression. The US has repeatedly warned China that any attempt to interfere with Philippine forces or vessels in the South China Sea would trigger a US response under the Mutual Defense Pact between the two nations. In addition to military support, the Philippines has also called for greater diplomatic engagement from other nations, urging them to support its position in international forums and multilateral organizations. China, however, has dismissed such calls for outside intervention, consistently stating that its activities in the South China Sea are legitimate and within its sovereign rights. The Chinese government has reiterated that its patrols and military presence in the region are necessary to protect its territorial interests and to ensure the safety of its shipping routes. Furthermore, Beijing has rejected any international arbitration on the matter, insisting that the issue should be resolved bilaterally with the countries directly involved. The ongoing tension over the South China Sea is a microcosm of the broader geopolitical rivalry between China and the United States. The US has a strategic interest in ensuring that the South China Sea remains open and accessible to all nations, both for economic reasons and for maintaining its influence in the Indo-Pacific region. The US Navy has conducted numerous freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, challenging China's territorial claims and asserting the right to sail through the waters without interference. This has led to a series of confrontations between Chinese and US forces, raising concerns about the potential for accidental escalation. The South China Sea is also a critical issue for other regional powers, including Vietnam and Malaysia, which have their own competing claims to parts of the sea. Vietnam, in particular, has been vocal in its opposition to China's actions, having been involved in several standoffs with China over disputed waters. The ongoing rivalry between China and these Southeast Asian nations has led to increased military cooperation among countries with overlapping claims in the region, further complicating the diplomatic landscape. Despite the diplomatic and military tensions surrounding the South China Sea, there are efforts to find a peaceful resolution to the disputes. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations has been working to mediate discussions between China and the claimants in the region, pushing for a code of conduct that would establish guidelines for the behaviour of all parties in the South China Sea. However, progress has been slow, and the prospect of a comprehensive agreement remains uncertain. As China continues to patrol the waters around Scarborough Shoal and assert its claims in the South China Sea, the Philippines and other nations in the region are likely to face increasing pressure to take a stronger stand against Beijing. The growing military presence of China in the region, coupled with its continued disregard for international rulings and agreements, means that the South China Sea dispute is likely to remain a point of contention for the foreseeable future. As tensions rise, the international community will need to find a way to navigate this complex and volatile situation, balancing the interests of the various parties involved while ensuring the stability and security of one of the most important regions in the world. In conclusion, the patrols around Scarborough Shoal represent a continuation of China's efforts to assert its dominance in the South China Sea and challenge the claims of other nations in the region. While the patrols are framed by China as a legitimate exercise in safeguarding its sovereignty, they further heighten tensions with the Philippines and other nations with competing claims. As the situation in the South China Sea becomes more contentious, the role of international diplomacy will be critical in shaping the future of the region and its security dynamics.